Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our commitment is to help, hope, and healing of our veteran family and our nation. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. Join us as we continue the mission of leadership and commitment to our communities and our great country. Why, you never know where we're going to go or who you're going to meet. We invite you to join in, plug in, and share in what we do. This is your Veterans Impact Show.
Welcome aboard. What a really great day. And I got to tell you, I've got two beautiful ladies from Fairway Independent Mortgage coming on with me today to talk about what they do for veterans and what they do for our nation. I got to tell you, it's truly amazing. But before I do that, I want to say a special thank you to DBTV Network that carries us on Amazon Fire and Roku and Spotify and all those people, as well as the AUN Network. I also want to thank Fairway Independent Mortgage, one of my sponsors. My NMLS number is 311548, and the corporate one is 2289. And we are a national lender Linda, how would I say that best? An equal opportunity lender? Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And she is president of our branch managing initiative. Louise Thaxton, you are one of the most amazing women I have ever encountered in my life. You are the CEO of the American Warrior Initiative, which is within Fairway. And you give away service dogs. You've given away over $1 million worth of dogs. So let's talk about what you do with the American Warrior Initiative.
Well, thank you for inviting me, James, and thank you for your service. You do an amazing job. I follow you, and you're incredible. So I just want to correct you on one thing. Fairway, actually, the employees of Fairway, through their donations, through payroll deductions, and some outside donors, we have donated over $6 million in service dogs.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot of puppies.
That's a lot of puppies. But you know what? It's 390 dogs to veterans, active duty military, or first responders. And I know you have it's amazing how many first responders are actually veterans. It's like, it's in their DNA. They got to do something dangerous.
That's right.
There's that.
It's to serve, Louise. It's to serve and protect. You know, in the military, everybody thinks, well, it's to go into combat and win, and your lethality. It's to serve and protect, because that strength, like if you went through a rough part of town, you'd want to have two of the biggest Marines you could possibly have with you, right? And then nothing bad would happen. So what you do, though, is so amazing. Can you tell me a couple of quick stories? Because I know you go all over the nation giving away these dogs. It's just exciting.
Well, there are so many stories, but one is recent, and it was just told we had our annual meeting for Fairway. I call it the family reunion, the annual family reunion. But a Vietnam veteran actually received a dog a couple of years ago. And we had heard his story, and, right after he got it, he said, I finally got the welcome home that I got the welcome home I never got from Vietnam. And he would bring tears just hearing him being so thankful, and the dog helped him to get out and get around. Well, as it turns out, last year, his wife that they had divorced in 1972, because they were married when he deployed to Vietnam, and he said when he came back, he was a different person. Now, I'm sure Linda, whose husband is a Vietnam veteran, she understands this very well. But he was a different person, and they divorced after a year. She had not seen him. They had not connected for 51 years. She had actually divorced, but she had married but divorced. She literally felt like Larry was her soulmate, but they had divorced in 72. She ran across some old pictures. It was their wedding pictures from, I think it was 68 or 69. And so she reached out to him through email and said, you know what? I haven't talked to you. I've got these pictures. I didn't know if you wanted them. And let me just say, that was a connection. They ended up meeting. And guess what? 3 months ago, they remarried. And they both feel like they found their soulmate, but it was thanks to Winnie, the service dog. And so they give thanks. They consider Winnie their baby together, their child together. And I am just going to say, I don't think, and Linda was there, she was in the audience. I don't know if you were there or not, James, but there wasn't a dry eye in the house when Larry and Monica, his wife, I welcomed them to the stage. They came and we all celebrated with them their reunion to soulmates, thanks to Winnie, the service dog.
You know,
is that not cool?
that isn't that a great story, Linda?
You're mute.
You're mute.
Yep, I am. There was not a dry eye in the room. I mean, it was so touching, and you're saving lives. I mean, you really are making a difference in saving lives, and how cool is that?
That's what it's all about, because both of you ladies are mortgage bankers. Both of you are with Fairway, which is the largest independent mortgage company in the nation. And a lot of people don't realize how important home ownership is. That is the American dream. I have seen that time and time again, literally pull families back together. Home is where the heart is. Home gives you that sense of security. And for many veterans, when we were overseas, when we were in Vietnam on aircraft carriers, the only thing we talked about 90% of the time is when we go back home, when we go back to the world, you know? And that was so terribly important. And I use my VA home loan benefits. I've used them twice, and it's just an amazing program. Now, Louise, I know you've got to go early, and Linda, you've got to go early. So I want to focus, though, who trains the dogs? How do you get those dogs to the point? Because you can't just give somebody a puppy. There is a huge difference between a service dog and a pet. So can you explain that and then tell us how you go about that?
Well, so you said it, James. We're in the mortgage business. Linda and I are in the mortgage business. And the AWI team, we're in the nonprofit business. So none of us are trained to train dogs. And you must be trained to train dogs. Another story is a young man, and this is actually how I got involved with service dogs and to begin with. David Proctor in Colorado Springs was at the point of suicide. He had actually stayed isolated for 2 years, didn't go outside his house. And then he received a service dog, and he said, that dog saved my life. That was the first time I heard a veteran. That was 8 years ago. He said, that dog saved my life. And so his mission became, I'm going to become a service dog trainer. So he trained for a year to be a service dog trainer and then started a service dog company. What we do when we are going into a location and they're saying, you know what, we want to do a service dog. We have a branch, and the branches donate monthly. They give, and that money is set aside for AWI initiative for them. And they said, we want to do a service dog. So we connect them, or we connect with a local, wherever they are. I mean, we have events in Boston, Dallas, Chicago, all over. And there are service dog organizations that we have worked with for the last 8-9 years. And so we reach out to them and say, this is our first, do you have any veterans on your wait list? You see, Larry had been on a wait list for several years for his service dog, the veteran I just told you about. Well, what we did is we took him off that wait list. Custom Canines in Madison, Wisconsin, where one of our home offices is, they have over 240 veterans on their wait list in Wisconsin. Well, so a lot of people say, well, you know what, can we find a veteran? Do you want us to look for a veteran? And I go, well, that's good, but what about veterans that have been waiting for 5 years? What about veterans that have been on a list for 6 years and they're at the point of giving up? And I've heard that story before. So we do that, and we partner with good service dog companies. Now, we have donated 390 dogs, and not all of that, I'm going to say 99% of it was with good service dog companies. But you know what? You run into a few that we had to change service dog companies. It didn't work out. They weren't doing their job. So we had to get another service dog company to come in and train that veteran's dog. Most of the time, we work with service dog companies that provide the dog, that provide the training, and most of the time they provide us the name of the veteran that has reached out to them, because veterans are looking for a service dog. So they go to a service dog company and they say, well, you're going to have to get on our list. And mainly you get on the list because someone needs to pay the $15,000 to take them off and train that dog. And that's an average cost. We have paid as much as $25,000 for a service dog and as low as $8,000 or $9,000, depending on the service dog company and what they do. We also have veterans who have a dog that they love and they've had it for 7 or 8 years, and they're not going to change dogs because they love that dog. So we see if we can work with a service dog company in their location. Can you train their dog? Now, not every dog can be trained because not all dogs are alike. Or, there's some that do not have the personality or the DNA to fit. We have service dog companies that believe that they need a certain breed, that they want a certain pedigree. And we have other service dog companies that deal with rescue dogs. So it's like veterans. They come in all shapes and sizes. Dogs, they come in all shapes and sizes. And service dog companies, they come in all shapes and sizes. The main thing, do they have a heart to serve veterans, the service dog company? And do we believe they're going to do their job? And you know what? 99.9% of the time, we find one that fits with us, fits with the veteran, and then it works together.
Well, you've been doing this for a number of years that you really have had a chance to vet people. Let me explain to our audience. There is a huge difference between a service dog and a pet. Diane and I were at a function not too long ago, and this lady had a little dog with a service dog jacket and all that on, and that dog was all over everything and yapping, and people would walk by and would go crazy. That's not a service dog, and that's disruptive. The problem is if there is a service dog in the room, that can become a problem as well, because sometimes they will, whether it's attack or trying to play with or whatever, and that's not good. So I tell people, if it's not a service dog, put a jacket on that says this is a service pet, because there is a huge difference.
Well, a lot of people are using, unfortunately, there's always someone that are going to utilize, knowing that an airlines will not turn down. You see a dog get on a plane and you're thinking that's not a service dog, but they got on a vest, but that's a way they can get a free ride. And I don't mean that offensively. I do not, but there is a difference, very clear difference, as you said, James. And there's a lot of people take advantage of that because they want to take their dog with them, and they want to. Hey, I've got daughters that are saying, you know what, I need to put a vest on my dog. Saying, I go, no, you're not.
No.
So it's tempting to do that because you love your dog so much.
Well, it can be a real serious problem for someone who does have a real serious problem and has a service dog. The other part of the problem that I have seen happen is that little children say, oh, let me pet Puppy, let me pet Fuffy. And that's not a service dog. And sometimes bad things happen when people go to pet a strange animal. So,
it was interesting. I was on a plane and there was a veteran beside me, and I suspected he was a veteran, or because he had a service dog, and you can kind of tell. I thought he might be special forces because you can just tell how they carry themselves. And his dog was riding. We were riding on a pretty long plane ride, and that dog, it literally, after a little bit, the dog looked at me and I kept looking at him. I wouldn't pet because I know, you're not supposed to. The dog laid his head in my lap, and the veteran was very surprised. And I said, may I put my hand? And he goes, yes. And I did. And he said, he doesn't normally do that. And I said, I don't know. Maybe dogs have a thing with me. And I told him that we had a nonprofit. We work with service dogs. It was the strangest thing because normally service dogs do not do that. So, but you're very right, James.
Jordan, can you put up the AWI website so we can show people where to go to find out more. And also on this website, American Warrior Initiative, there is a donate button, correct, Louise?
Absolutely. And you know what? Your donation will go toward a service dog. There is also a place where you can shop for some AWI apparel because we were red on Friday. And, your money, even if you buy the shirt, here's the cool thing. The American Warrior Initiative is 100% underwritten and funded by Fairway Mortgage. So that means there's no expenses. So every dollar that someone gives goes directly to an initiative. So it will go to a service dog when you donate or when you buy apparel, because Fairway bought the apparel. We've got some shirts on there. We've got some cups on there made by a veteran. And also, I know that your program is on YouTube, and I would invite everyone to go like, follow, copy, share. American Warrior Initiative has a YouTube channel too, and there are some amazing videos on there, one of which is a 10-minute documentary of Larry's story that I told you about. And just have some tissues handy, is all I can say.
Yeah, isn't that great? And so it's not just about being a mortgage company. We are a community company, even though we're nationwide. And all of our offices are basically managed by people like you two ladies. Now, this is Women's History Month, and I've got two, I think, of the most important women in the mortgage industry, not just in Fairway. Because, Linda, I'm in your branch, and I go places, and people go, "Oh, Jim, you're in Fairway. Do you know Linda?" And I go, "Yeah, she's my branch manager. She's a great friend. She and her husband, we all go have dinner." I go, "She is the best in the industry. She is so good." Without a doubt.
She is a legend.
Oh, you guys are going to give me a big head.
She is a legend. I'm just going to tell you, she is.
Both of you
Linda
ladies.
and I have been friends for for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
Even before she came to Fairway, we were friends because I looked up to her so much. It's like, oh my goodness, if anybody knows how to do it, it's Linda Davidson. So I've been with Fairway 25 years, but I've loved Linda Davidson all that time and consider her a legend.
All right, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back and continue this conversation because it's important for people to know that here is a company that not only supports veterans, but supports women in business. Here are two of the leaders of Fairway that do an amazing job. So we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. You join us, participate, be a part of it. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Man, this is a blast for me because I've got two great ladies who are industry leaders. Linda and Louise, what would you say to a young woman who says, "Gee, I want to learn about the mortgage industry. I want to find out about a career"? Because one of the things, there are so many very, very effective women in the mortgage industry. There's no glass ceiling. You can do whatever you want to do. True?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I actually think sometimes that women can actually be better in the business, and that's being a little prejudiced, I do know, but because this business has to have such empathy for the clients that feel like that they're looking for that white picket fence for their family. I grew up in government housing, and so to get to do this every single day and to get to create homeownership for families is the most coolest thing in the world. And Louise and I have both been in the business for many, many, many decades, but still never lose that joy of getting to help families into a home of their own. So, most families, that is a dream for them. And to get to do that is pretty cool. And so you're right, Jim, there is no glass ceiling. And that's the part that is so cool about this industry. It's not an easy industry to break into. It's not an easy industry to to get those referrals, and a lot of the positions are 100% commission based. And so definitely, if it's someone that's really interested in it, we can definitely have that conversation. But it's not for the faint of heart. It's a very cyclical business. It's a very seasonal business. It's a very we're very a lot of it's controlled by how the market is. So, with housing and interest rates and so on and so forth. But it's such a cool business to get to help families. And so I am so blessed. I think most of us fell into the mortgage business. I don't think anybody woke up one morning and just said, I want to be a lender when I grow up. But how cool to have fallen into this business and then have the mentors like Louise and so many others in our industry that have just take you and then help you to grow and to grow into what you wanted to be when you grow up.
And Louise, how did you get in the business?
Well, I was actually operating a restaurant in downtown Manny, Louisiana. The name of the restaurant was Weezer's because everybody called me Weezer after Steel Magnolias. I think because they thought I was an old grouch. I'm not sure if you've watched Steel Magnolias, know what I'm talking about. But anyway, the name of the restaurant was Weezer's, and I was burned out. I had left a lawyer. I'd worked for a lawyer for 18 years and just wanted something different. Started a restaurant. That was a wrong move. I did realize real quick that you got to have a calling to be in the restaurant business. I thought that you could just cook. And I cooked for my family. I thought, well, you know what? I should cook for money. Well, I soon realized that first year in the restaurant business, I made about minimum wage, and I worked 16 and 18 hours a day. And I realized it's like, you know what? I'm done with this. And the president of a local bank called me and said, come see me, which scared me. I thought, am I overdrawn? What's the deal? And he said, I want you to run my mortgage department. Well, I had worked with this man for 18 years because I was a closing agent. I worked for the attorney. We did all the closings. So I did it on a lot of people aren't going to know what this is, a Selectric 2 typewriter. I rolled in the HUD and I did it up. I typed up the mortgage and the note. I knew everything about the other side of the mortgage business because I did that for an attorney. Which, he was an all-around attorney. I would do your mortgage. I would do your divorce. I would do your property settlement.
One-stop shop.
I would even do your will and your succession. So I did all that. And he said, do you want to run my mortgage department? And I said, I don't know anything about mortgages. He said, oh, you got the personality. I'll teach you mortgages. And I was in it for a couple of years with them. And then they decided to shut down their mortgage department. And that's when I reached out to Steve Jacobson in November of 2000. This November will be 25 years ago. And I said, I want to go to work for somebody. And so I started a branch in November of 2000. And the rest is history. But I'm pretty blessed that's how that worked. Because I was in a little town of 2,900 people. It was my MGIC rep that said, hey, call this guy, and gave me Steve Jacobson's number. I consider it a blessing from God.
100%.
Linda,
nothing but the hand of God. Nothing but the hand of God.
Linda, how did you get started?
So I ran an operations department for a retail chain of stores for years and years. And because I saw the books, I called my dad. I was just talking one day and I said, I really think I know we're in financial trouble. I said, I think they're going to shut this company down. And he says, I said, I don't know what to do. And he said, well, why don't you get in the mortgage business? And I said, well, what do they do? And he said, well, they help people get houses or get financing for houses. And I said, well, that sounds really cool because I have a finance background. So he says, well, I know this guy and he trains, he'll hire new people. So I called him and I went for interview, and I actually went for interview purposes because I hadn't interviewed in so long. I thought, well, what do I have to lose? They'll give me some experience in interviewing, and I have nothing to lose, right? So I went and interviewed, and he painted me a picture of what it was like to be in the mortgage business and to be an originator. And I sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and I want to do this. So, my husband and I, we had four boys, and I went out to the car and sit in my minivan. We had minivan at that time. And I said, and I had never done this at that time. I had never done it before. And I said, Lord, I'm supposed to do this. I know I'm supposed to do this, but I need a burning bush. By the end of the day, I need a burning bush. And if I don't have it, I know that's from you, and I won't ask you again. And so I went back to the office when I ran the operations department for this retail chain of stores. And about 2 hours later, the president of the company called me. He said, can you collect all the leaders? He says, I need to meet everyone in my office. So I went to everybody. During that time, we didn't have texts or emails. It was just a lot different. Or I had some emails, but it wasn't the same. But anyway, and we sit down, and we walked in his office, and he said,
I hate to interrupt you. We got to go for a break. We'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Linda, I'm sorry I interrupted. Finish your conversation. That was too good.
So he said, I just want to let you know, and this was the same day, that I had put this release in front of the Lord and said, I know I'm supposed to do this. And he said, our parent company filed for bankruptcy this morning. And part of the bankruptcy is they're shutting all our branches down. And I started laughing, and probably everyone thought that I had lost my mind, because same day, there was my burning bush. And so I started in the mortgage business on the 2nd of January of 1997, didn't even know how to spell FHA, and had like 3 days of training. And you know what? What a blessing. What a blessing. And I love being a part of Fairway. The owner of our company, or CEO of our company, has a saying, and he says, loans is what we do, but it's not who we are. And the culture and the family and the feel of this company is unbelievable. And what a blessing. And Louise, I know you want to say something because you've been in it longer than I have.
No, I have not. Well, I'm with Fairway, but what you just said, that's the first time I've heard that story, Linda, as long as I've known you. But do you know that I got in business in May of 97? So we're only like 3 or 4 months apart.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I didn't know that. So how cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm so careful. I would never put a fleece in front of the Lord, just arbitrarily, because I'm so respectful to that relationship. But I knew that it was what I was supposed to do. But to put my family in jeopardy to go to a 100% commission job with 4 boys was scary as heck. And I had to know that was really what I was feeling, and it was what I was being directed. And I just can't even fathom doing what we have done in the last 27 years or 28 years. What a blessing. What a blessing.
It really, really is. And you're a blessing to everybody, because most people think of mortgage business, well, that's filling out a lot of paperwork. No, it's a really personal business. And one of the things I believe is that by working with somebody personally, because everybody's got problems. I mean, how often do you see an 800 plus credit score with somebody with 3 times more income than they need and never had a glitch? Never.
No.
Very rarely. And even
that would be a no. That would be a no. Everybody has, everybody has their challenges. As we say, every loan has a little hair on it, and our job is to work through that and help that family into the right mortgage for the right person and for the right time for them. So, and how cool is that? How fun is that?
This is a problem-solving business, and it is a people business.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, that's why I enjoy it. I was a commercial real estate developer, 87. I saw it coming. I sold out of everything. I was running other companies, and I got a call from KRLD here in Dallas, a radio station, CBS affiliate, and said, could you help us do this mortgage real estate hour? And I go, yeah, man. I did Armed Forces Radio. I'm in.
I love it.
And I fell in love with the business. So I went to one of my tenants who had a proprietary school, and I said, I'm going to get in the residential business. I've been a licensed real estate broker since 1972, but I don't know anything about this. She said, well, here, you're going to learn it, teach it. I did.
I love it. Yep, and that's how you learn.
That's how
Jim,
you learn.
It's been so much fun. I've got to jump off to my next call, but thank you for having me today.
You bet.
This has been so much fun to be a part of this.
Louise, I know you've got to go. You've got to deliver the prayer. Thank you, Linda, so much. And please say hi to David. It's a wonderful, wonderful family, let me tell you.
Yes,
and they do a
is.
phenomenal job. If you want to get a hold of Linda, get a hold of me. I'll cook you up with Linda. She is my branch manager, an amazing human being. And I think one of the greatest motivational lessons that I have ever heard is just being around her. So, Linda, thank you for being on board. And Louise, you probably need to go so you can deliver the prayer and the pledge.
I do. But what a blessing it was to be with you and your audience and with Linda. Linda is she is the best. I'm just going to say she is the best. And James, so are you. So thank you so much for asking us on this call. I'm just going to reiterate one more time what she said. Mortgages are what we do, but it's not who we are. What other mortgage company has 3 nonprofits? And we have, the American Warrior Initiative, we have Fairway Cares, and then we have the Fairway Fund. And I am telling you, there has been millions of dollars donated to people struggling all over this nation, whether they're veterans, active duty military, first responders, or just people with another nonprofit we have, Fairway Cares, that are hurting from loss, grief, cancer. So mortgages are what we do, but it's not who we are. And I just can't imagine. I don't even know another company that does what we do, much less mortgage companies. So we're blessed to work for one amazing leader and one amazing company. And I'm honored to be on this show and wish you the best of luck in everything you do, James.
Well, we're doing some really exciting things to bring help and hope and healing to so many people. And part of it is I'm thankful that we do have Fairway as a participant because home ownership means everything to people. So thank you so much, Louise. Have a really blessed day.
Thank you so much.
All right. I now am going to have an opportunity to wing it and basically talk to you from my heart about what I do in the reverse mortgage industry. I got into reverse mortgage lending a number of years ago, in about 2005. I've been a commercial real estate developer, a real estate broker, a background in appraisal, a background in finance. I got into the mortgage business simply because I needed to make a living and not take personal liability. In commercial development, you got to take a lot of liability. So I got into it, I learned it. And an interesting thing is one of the things I did is I learned how to do the most difficult mortgages. At that time, they were FHA mortgages. How do you do a loan like that to be able to help somebody who's got a lot of problems? And I went to every underwriter, I went to every class, I learned. And I got to be a real specialist. So people would say, hey, this is a problem deal. Give it to Jim. He'll take care of it. I had a situation where a young lady had moved to be near her parents here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She was from Miami, Florida. She had had a relationship, she had a marriage, and the guy stole her identity, put a second lien on a home that she had just bought, went out and bought a car with her identity, took out credit cards with her identity, and all of a sudden one day she woke up with everybody and her uncle trying to collect money from her. She goes, what's going on? She then finds out, well, needless to say, that ended that relationship. But she had an attorney that I think gave her some real bad advice. She went to the DA, and the guy pleaded guilty. So he was indicted for fraud. So we had all of those records. But the guy also said, well, with all this debt, you need to declare bankruptcy. No, that's not true. But she did it. So I'm sitting there with a 25, 26-year-old young lady who's got a job in Dallas, who's got the worst credit I'd ever seen, with a bankruptcy, with a car repossession, all of these things. Wow. And she wanted to have a home. And she had a little girl, a child. So I went to work, and I worked with an underwriter, and we got all the documentation from the conviction of the person that she was in a relationship with that stole everything. We got all of the documentation from the bankruptcy. We put it all together. I had a file about this thick, and there was only one underwriter that would touch it. And we went through, and literally the underwriter was sitting there with me reading it, and she started crying. She said, I can't believe this happened to somebody. We got that loan approved. We got that little girl a home, and her parents put up the money through providing a gift that she was able to buy a home for she and her little girl. You have any idea what that did to make me feel like, wow, I helped somebody to have a home? So at the time I was single, and I was in a restaurant with a date. I just met this lady, and in walks this young woman and her little girl, and she runs up to me and gives me a big hug and a big kiss and says, Jim, you just saved my life. And I'm sitting there, and the date that I had looked up at me, and she's like, who are you? So you never know, but that's a good story. Let me tell you, I've been in this business now since 1994. I was on a station here in Dallas, and we had a lot of people come. And then in 2005, 2006, I started doing the reverse mortgage, and I found the same thing is true. I was helping a lot of people who are in desperate financial situations, and we help them solve the problem and get back on track. One of the things is, in this nation, of the people that are over, 62 for reverse, but let's say over 65 that are retiring, 95% of them don't have anything but Social Security. And the average Social Security is $1,450 a month. Could you live on that? I had a lady call me up, and basically she said, can you help me? And I said, yeah. And I was working for a bank out of Oklahoma at that time. So I went up to Oklahoma and Tulsa, and she was working as a waitress in a diner because she had to have enough money to be able to pay for her prescription medicine. And I set her down, and she had decent enough credit, and she had income, but her Social Security was about $1,400 a month. We were able to give her a plan, pay off her existing mortgage, give her some additional cash, and I set up a line of credit where she was able to get the money every month she needed for that prescription medicine. I'll never forget, when I closed it, she started crying, and she said, now I don't have to break my back in a restaurant delivering food. She said, now I can pay for my prescription medicine. I've had that story so many times, it's not even funny. I've had the story of widows who lost their husband and lost part of their income, because in a couple, if one of you passes away, then the income is reduced by whatever the lesser of the two Social Security is. So all of a sudden, somebody's sitting there, and maybe they were making $3,000, $4,000 a month income, Social Security, and now it's maybe $1,500. Wow. It's been reduced quite a bit. Maybe it's $2,000. Whatever it is, it's not what it was before. So I've helped them out. And one of the things I did is I became a certified senior advisor to really learn more about housing, aging, medical conditions. I sat with a guy in Tulsa who was a pharmacist. And I said to him, I watched the way you came down the stairs. You're having a real problem. And I watched the way you walk in here. And I'm looking at you. I said, have you been to a doctor recently? Because you've had a stroke. And the guy got real angry. He said, I'm a pharmacist. I know I'd had a stroke. I said, well, you need to go to a doctor. He said, yeah, you got mad at me. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. But they needed to get out of a huge 2-story house. And he had lost his business because he was a pharmacist who had a small independent pharmacy in Tulsa, and the big boys put him out of business. So we helped them downsize to a condominium that was just a few doors down from their daughter's condominium. About a month after we closed, and they were so grateful for my help. They sold that house, put some money in the bank, bought the home, no monthly payment on principal and interest. They just had to pay their taxes and insurance and HOA and maintain the place. About a month later, the lady calls me up. Her husband died. You know what he died of? A stroke. And the doctor told him, this isn't the first you've had. So when you deal with people the way I have learned to deal with people, you begin to see things, you begin to hear things. And I get families involved, and we build a plan that can help them in retirement. We build them a plan, and sometimes I say to them, this isn't going to work for you. This is not a good situation at all. We need to get with your family and come up with another alternative, because this is just not going to work. And there are times. And I had a wonderful lady in Norman, Oklahoma. And I said, you don't need to do this. And she goes, well, yeah, I'm going to do it. I said, no, you really need to be in a retirement facility that has people that can take care of you. No, I'm going to do this. She was in a wheelchair. She was paralyzed from the waist down from a stroke, smart as a tack. And I told her sons, this is not a smart move, because she needs help. No, you don't know how mom is. Yeah, I know. I found out. Mom's a little tough. So she did the mortgage. A year later, her son called me, and mom had died because the caretakers who were not insured, who were not part of a company with supervision, they were just people she hired off the street for minimum wage, stole her medicine, stole her credit cards, stole the money that we'd given her, and she died. So there are times and situations where we don't want to do this, and this won't help people. But for the most part, it's an issue of planning, of building a plan with your family that can help you. If you're a multimillionaire, yeah, there's some good advantages of doing this, but boy, for the average American, for 95% of the people out there, you need a plan and you need help. So we're going to talk more about this when we come back, because this is my opportunity to talk about what I do in the mortgage business. I'm Jim Blythe, and I'm with Fairway Independent Mortgage. And my mortgage number is 311-548. Our corporate one is 2289. We are an equal opportunity lender. I'll be right back to talk more about the importance of VA home loans as well. So we'll be right back. And thank you for staying on board.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Well, I'm wrapping it up, and this is Women's History Month, and I had two wonderful, beautiful, amazing women business women on my program earlier today, but they both had obligations and had to go. And I wanted to get this program in the month of March because women's history and women are so important. And so in the next program we're going to be providing to you, we're going to be talking about the VA and the Texas Veterans Commission and women veterans and what all we're doing for them. So for next week, stick around because we got a great program. For this week, I also want to talk to you about being a veteran and having the benefits of a veteran's home mortgage, the VA home loan. Let me tell you, there is no better loan. There is no better loan. Zero down. You can get the seller to pay your closing costs, how you negotiate it. You can literally get into a home next to nothing. You say, well, gee, I'm coming out. I'm out of the military. I've got a brand new job. I don't have any money saved up. You can buy a home. You can have a home that is the castle, but is the foundation for you and your family. You got a place for your kids to live in and have a backyard. I'll never forget the very first home that I sold in 1972. You know what sold the home? The little girl comes running in and says, Daddy, Daddy, I found my bedroom, and guess what? Look at this huge backyard. I can have a puppy. Bang, sold the home. First home I ever sold on the first job in real estate, 45 minutes after I started. Not many people know. But I went on to commercial real estate, and I went on to do a lot of things, including mortgage and real estate shows and being a mortgage teacher. I can tell you without a doubt, the VA home loan is the best. The state of Texas has the Texas Veterans Land Board. We have an amazing program to help you to buy a home with the Texas Veterans Land Board. But what if you want to buy land? What if you don't want to buy a home? Or what if you want to buy land out in the country that you ultimately will build a home? Texas Veterans Land Board. They've got an opportunity for you to be able to have a home, to be able to buy that land. That's a pretty good deal. So you can buy a VA home loan with a VA loan, and it is assumable by another veteran. Guess what? My very first home, I assumed another veteran's loan, low interest rate at the time. The home that Diane and I bought 10 years ago, we used a VA home loan. It was amazing. Now, the home that we currently bought, I used a reverse mortgage because we had property that we sold. So guess what? I don't have a monthly payment on my principal and interest. I do pay my taxes, my insurance, my HOA. Actually, I don't pay taxes because I got a disability from the PACT Act. And I am so grateful to the VA for that. So if you don't know anything about the PACT Act, you call me. Let's look it up. Let's get you going if you can qualify. But to go back to the fact is there are ways to help you to get into a home. There is also so many veterans that I know, I have worked with, World War II veterans, Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans, who basically that home doesn't work anymore. They bought that home in 1975. It's a 2-story home. It's a 1975 home. The home that Diane and I bought, brand new, latest technology, tankless water heater, everything covered under warranty. Guys, single story. I had a guy come to me several years ago through David Weekly Homes. They sent him to me, and he said, my wife has MS. We can't live in our big house, so we've got a David Weekly, but they suggested that you could help us get this home. And I said, sure. And we did it, and again, it's the same thing. They used the equity out of the home they sold. They put a big chunk of cash into investments, but they had no monthly payment except for taxes and insurance and maintaining the home. Think about that for a minute. They set themselves up because here's the other thing. With the disease she had, he knew her teacher retirement was going to go away. Ooh, that's another problem. So he knew that someday when she went to be with the Lord, that income would be gone. So he wanted to get their budget in line now. So I tell people, get your budget in line now. Expect things to happen. Expect bad things to happen. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and you'll end up somewhere in between. I'm 78 years old. I am a Vietnam veteran. Diane and I have done that. We've built a plan. I teach people how to build a plan. I wrote a book called Planning to Change. I got to tell you something. There's an opportunity there. In a book that I wrote, Challenges for Change, which is on Amazon, you can look it up. Challenges for Change, Challenges of Change by Jim Blythe. I got to tell you, it's war stories. It's not a how-to book. It's a why-to book. So for so many Americans out there, you're living on the edge in retirement. You're sweating. We've had terrible inflation. Go look at buying a carton of eggs. Good grief. Cost as much as a T-bone. What are you going to do when things happen? Now, I do believe we're going to go through cycles. Things are going to improve. Things are going to get better. But again, when you're on a fixed income, what do you do if the air conditioner breaks? What if one of you becomes ill and needs to go into a nursing home? What is your plan? What documents do you have in place? What family members do you have in place? What have you done to communicate? One of the things that happened to me is my father, who was a CPA, would never talk to me. And he had a trust, he had an estate, would never talk about it. I hear this all the time. My dad was a World War II veteran. Man, let me tell you, I talk to my sons. So give me a call. I'm Jim Blythe with Fairway. I'm at 214-502-4600. I want a quick prayer. Dear Lord God, we thank you for putting a hedge of protection around our active duty military, those who run into the fire and away from it, and for our veterans who are helping us to bring this nation back together. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is Jim Blythe, and I'm going to invite you to come back to Veterans Impact Show next week. You're going to love it. Join us.